Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I'm going to be showing y'all how I'm going to be wrapping this quartz crystal, which was sent to me by a client, and I'm really excited to get to wrap it because it's a pretty unique crystal. I love how there's the 2 points, there's this little bit of clustering here on the front. I feel like this is going to be a really easy stone to, easy stone in that there's lots of stuff for me to hook onto, so I'm not going to have to worry about like the crystal just sliding right out because it is undrilled. It doesn't have any holes in it. But hopefully some of the principles that we'll be covering in this video you'll be able to apply to your projects. So let's get started. So here we have the materials that we're working with today. I'm using an 18 gauge silver plated titanium Parawire brand wire, and this is copper core that's been plated with silver and then coated in a titanium colored enamel, and I feel like it has this really nice kind of antiqued silver look. This is the only copper core that I'm using today. The rest of the stuff that I'm using is dead soft silver filled, which it's a much thicker silver plating. Like, it still has copper in the core, but the silver plating on it is like much more. And so I wanted to kind of get a feel of how this wire behaved in comparison to the copper core that's just been plated. And so I have this in 20 gauge, 28 gauge, and 26 gauge, and these are all 1/2 ounce spools, just little samples. The tools that I'm using are our standard nylon gel pliers, perfect for kind of flattening out the wire. Well, not flattening so much as like straightening it. 2 different sizes of round nose pliers, 2 different sizes of bent nose pliers, flat nose pliers, and wire snips. And I'm just going to keep all these guys kind of organized over on their little stand. There should be links for all of the tools and materials used in this video down in the description below. Let me mess with the camera just a little bit more because you know me, I'm never happy with it. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to start with the bail for this pendant, because it's quite a large pendant, so I want the bail to be like comparable in size. So I'm uncoiling out about, how long is this? Almost 20 inches of the 18 gauge, and again, that's why I'm using the copper core for these core wires, is because, well, first off, most of it's going to be covered. Second off, I'm using a ton of it, and so to keep the piece affordable, while still using, you know, the very nice kind of silver look, I hesitate to call it cutting a corner because I still feel like this stuff's pretty good quality, but just kind of compromising, you know, not making it out of solid silver, but just adding in the copper core a little bit here and there where I can. I feel like, you know, makes the difference between being able to charge $80 for a piece as opposed to like $160, because this would be a lot of silver wire, especially with it being a heavier gauge. Okay, so I have cut 4 core wires. I'm going to set this big spool off to the side. And I think I'm going to do my wrapping with some 26 gauge on this. I'm really excited to kind of see how it behaves. And I'm pulling off 2 arm spans. Also, I guess this is really where it's going to start hurting how wasteful I am with my wire sometimes. So, or rather how wasteful I can be. Oops, didn't mean to poke the camera. So now I'm going to start kind of midway, but actually I'm going to start here on the end. And I'm going to do 10 wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Press it down in my fingernails. So far it seems pretty good. Not too much of a difference as far as being harder or easier to work with. I'm really excited to see how this antiques down though. So I just kind of coiled my tail in a little bit. I'm going to mess with the camera just a little bit more, y'all. Okay. So now you can see what I'm doing maybe a little better. So I'm going to drag this down until it's kind of centered up. Okay, so it's like 2/3 of the way in from the end. And so now here, I'm stacking just another wire right next to it. And I'm going to wrap around once and twice around both. And then the new wire, I'm going to go I'm going to start this out kind of strangely, and then we'll get into the established pattern. I'm going to add in the next wire and wrap around both. 1 and 2. And then I'm going to isolate the newest wire. Now this is actually my first time working with this silver filled, so kind of excited to share this process with y'all. Okay, isolating the two most recent. There's one. And there's 2. Okay, so now that we've got these guys wrapped together, I'm just kind of bending out the tails a little bit so they're not so springy and all over the place. Okay, so I'm going to pull this one out. I'm going to wrap around it twice. So there's 1 and 2. And I kind of want a little bit of a split going between these two, because this is going to come off into the bail. And so this one's coming in from kind of behind, and by behind I mean away from us. In front would be between the wire and our body. Okay, this is already getting tangled up on my chair legs and feet and stuff, so just try to make sure that you don't get any kinks or anything in the wire, that your cat doesn't start chewing on it under the desk or anything. Not the voice of experience or anything on that one. Okay, so we're just wrapping now around this one, and we're going to wrap twice. And then we're going to wrap once and twice around both. And so there's once and twice around just that one wire. And then we're going to come around and add in just a touch of that figure 8 weave. So there's 1 and 2. And now 1 and 2 around both. And then 1 and 2 around the 1. And now I'm just going to figure 8 it. So if it's exiting on this side, we want to bring it around to the front and go 1 and 2. So that's a little bit different of a weave from what I normally do. And I've decided I don't really know how I like it. Fortunately, this is the back side, So this is not too late for us to change it up. So instead of scrapping all of that, because I do feel like it's very structural and it's going to hold everything where it's going, so I'm actually going to go 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do 2. So there's 1 and 2. And then I'm just going to wrap around 1 once. Ooh, and it's getting kind of kinked up. So it may be just as soft to start with, but it doesn't seem to stay as soft. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. So now I'm just kind of messing about trying to establish a design. 1, 2, 3. Because the reason why I didn't like this down here is I wanted it more solid on the sides and more airy in the center. And this was too airy on the sides and too solid in the center. So I'm doing, there's 1, 2, 3 around just this outermost one. And then I'm going to go 1, 2 around both. 1 around this one. So this is going to be wire 1, wire 2, wire 3, and wire 4. Wire 1 is closest to us, wire 4 is farthest away. So I just did 1 rotation around wire 3, and now I'm going to come in, figure 8ing it, and what I mean by that is it was on the back, so now it's on the front, and do 1 rotation around wire 2. And then I'm going to go 1, 2 wraps around wires 1 and 2, the 2 closest to us. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And I think I'm going to have to go ahead and just do 5. So there's 4 and 5. And now I'm going to do 2 wraps around just the one, around wires 1 and 2. Then 1 wrap around the 1 wire, figure 8ing to here. So there's 1 wrap around there. So we're going to go 1, 2. And then I'm going to do 5 rotations around wire number 4. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 rotations. Okay, so I've gotten a little bit woven just to work out any kinks in the pattern so that because I don't want to be confusing to y'all. You know, it was a little jumbled here at the beginning, but what we're doing is we have our 2 rotations around our wires 1 and 2. So now I'm going to come and do 1 rotation around wire number 2. Oop, just like this. And so now this is exiting on the back side. So now we're going to wrap around to the front of wire number 3. And we're going to do 1 full rotation around this wire. And what that does is it locks it down. Just like that. And now we're going to do 2 rotations around wires 3 and 4. So there's 1 and 2. Get that kind of smushed down next to each other. And now if it's easier for you, you can actually just flip your work around to bring wire number 4 closest to you and do 5 rotations. So there's 1, 2, 3, rotations. I'm going to flip it back over just to make sure everything looks right from the front. So I'm going to count using my fingernail actually. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay. And that's the thing that kind of to keep in mind, is that sometimes the correct number of rotations on one side does not translate into the correct number from the other side. Sorry, messing with my camera for a minute. So I'm going to do one more rotation around wire number 4. This is also a lot easier when I'm not battling with not hitting the camera. Okay, so now rotations around wires 4 and 3 and 4, I don't know, 2 rotations around these 2, you guys. I'm trying to be all like straightforward and professional, and it's like I can't do this. So we're going to do 2 wraps around those 2 right here, and I'm going to do 1 wrap around wire number 3. You can see we're exiting on the back side of the wire, so I'm going to wrap around via the front side, figure 8ing it, and doing 1 full rotation around that wire, and that locks it down. And here, how I just kind of quit on the front, that's not a full rotation. I'm going to need to bring it all the way to the back. That's a full rotation. And it just holds so much better. So now I'm going to do just a few more, you know, shaping and kind of holding my wire the whole time. A few more to, like, probably to here. And then I'm going to start reducing it back down. So I'm going to get us to the reduction point, and then I'm going to go off camera and get as much done as I can, and then meet y'all back here. That way we can still get this tutorial done in a timely manner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 around that 1 wire, and then 2 rotations. There's 1 and 2 around both, and then 1 rotation around this wire, and now we'll come through and figure 8 it. And do 1 and 2. And I really encourage you to find your own variation of this, something that feels good and makes sense to you, because so much of this is just repetition of the same pattern. So you could do just 3 rotations in between. Sorry, I'm fighting a sneeze. Excuse me. Every time. I'll go all day without sneezing. As soon as I start recording, guess who's got allergies? So there's 5 rotations. But yeah, with 3 rotations, it would give you a much tighter netting. But I kind of wanted something nice and open and airy, because that's going to be a challenge for me on this piece with how large the crystal is I want to still have it be quite light and airy looking. Like, I don't want the piece to look heavy and bulky, if that makes sense. Okay, so now, what am I doing? We're going to go 1, 2 rotations around both, and then 1 rotation around the center. Figure 8 it. There's 1, and then 1, 2, and then 1, 2. I'm actually going to zoom out quite a bit so you can see that's how I bring it around the end of the wire. So there's 3, 4, just around like that, and 5, and then 1, 2, and then just 1 around the 1. And so now from here, this is going to be my last one before I start contracting. So I'm going to lock that one down and then do my 2, 1, 2, my 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, then my 2 around the 2, so there's 1 and 2, and then my 1 around the 1. You could also totally incorporate beads along the edge here, but I really like how that like kind of comes and opens up. So now what we're going to do here is I'm going to grip it with my fingers and kind of just push in a little. And I'm going to grip it here and pull in just a little. And see, because I want the expansion to match the contraction. Like I don't want this to be, you know, 1.5 inches long and have this be 3 inches long. Or, you know, just 1/2 inch long. I want it to be as close to even as I can. So now to figure 8 it, I'm actually going to offset these a little bit. That way I can still kind of comfortably get my wires through and around. And it can be a pain at first, it really can, but stick with it and you'll get the hang of it. Okay, so there's 1 around the 1. Then I'm going to go 1, 2. Now I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rotations. And you can see I'm already getting my little notch in my nail. So much for having a nice manicure ever. So there's 1 and 2. And then we're going to go around the 1, figure 8 it, coming up around this one, lock that down, and I am just going to continue just kind of bringing this down and around. And you can see this one I didn't lock it down properly, so I'm actually going to backtrack. Ooh, get all tangled up in my wire. There we are. It's a nice little tangle we've got going on. Oh mercy. Okay, there we are. So now, yeah, get a full wrap going on this wire number 2 before we do the figure 8 weave. So yeah, be patient with yourself, because I'm even having a hard time with this, so just be patient, you'll get there. And now, if you think this looks cool, let's zoom in a bit. And so I'm going to come in with my nylon jaw pliers and kind of just flatten everything down. And I really feel like that tightens it up, makes it look pretty sharp. You can kind of make sure everything's all smushed together, but that's how that's looking. And so I'm going to come through and I'm just going to keep contracting it down, and then I'll meet y'all right back here. Okay, so you know how I said I wanted to make this side match this side in length? Well, that is easier said than done, for sure. So, this is what's happening. It is not what I planned, but it is what is happening. So, I wanted to show y'all, though, that it's okay, even if stuff doesn't go as planned. So, I'm just gonna keep on wrapping. Keep on wrapping, keep on wrapping. Wrapping, 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 wrapping. What do? You wrap, wrap. La, 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 la. Okay, so we did 2 around the 2. Now we're doing 5 around the 1. So there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now 2 around the 2. And 1 around the 2nd. And you can kind of cinch it down by, I cram my thumbnail up against it and then tighten, and I feel like that cinches up some of the loose space. And now, oh, where's my wire? I'm going to figure 8 this through, if I can. There we are. Then 1 and 2. I'm going to see if I can't smush that a little bit closer. Now I'm going to hook our outermost wire. There's 1. 2. 3, 4, and 5. So I think that's just going to be as good as I get it, you guys. And we might change our mind, and this side might end up being the front. So it's, again, just be patient with yourself, be patient with the project. We've got this. Okay. So now I'm going to do the 2 around 1, or 2 around 2 rather, and then I'm just going to hook around, and I'm going to and I think that's going to be our last one. This is going to kind of bind it off. It is now joined. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to repeat a I'm going to flip it over because I prefer working from this angle. I don't know why. No, I don't. Sorry, I don't even know what I'm doing. So I'm going to repeat a 2-5 pattern. So 2 around 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Smush that down with your fingernails. And then 1, 2 around both. And then I'm going to do 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Smush that down with your fingernails. And then 2 around 2. So there's 1, 2. And I'm going to repeat this pattern that I'm going to zoom in on for you guys. So you can see 2 around the 2, 5 around 1, 2 around 2, 5 around 1, 2 around 2, and then I would just continue. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 around the 1, and then there's 1 and 2. And I'm going to continue doing this down to kind of the ends of, like, that is what this segment is going to be doing. And then I'm going to finish that up, and then I'll meet y'all right back here. So I've woven out to the end of the wire, and now I have some 4mm cut but not polished quartz crystal, and we get to play a riveting game of does it fit. I sure hope it does. And they don't. Crap. Well, that one doesn't. Maybe the next one will. Nope. So that's always fun. So let me try a different bead type. We have a nice selection of quartz crystal here. So maybe these ones will fit. That'd be cool. And they do. Excellent. Or at least that one does. But that's a start. So, what we're going to do then, with this 28 gauge silver filled dead soft wire. Oops. Now this stuff kinks up super easily. I don't have a whole lot of experience working with 28 gauge. So, let's get started. Get some experience under our belt. I'm going to do the same kind of coiling as what I typically do. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 coils. Kind of press them in together. The goal here with using some different wire gauges is to add, a little bit more texture and depth, I think. I think this will look really nice. Also, this 28 gauge will be perfect for wrapping onto a 20 gauge core wire. I'm going to use my bent nose pliers to just kind of tuck that tail down and around, flush with the rest of our wire. I'm going to zoom it in just a bit for you so you can see how that's going. And now I'm going to slide on one of our 4mm kind of milky snow quartz, it looks like, and then wrap around it like this, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to press them together, pick up another bead, slide it onto our wire, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Slide another bead on. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And it's okay to be off by 1 or 2. It's not going to end the world. And so I'm just going to kind of continue this, and you can see here I'm working off the spool. Like, I have not trimmed this wire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because I wasn't really certain how much space the 28 gauge takes up on the wire. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Kind of making sure it's all nice and straight. And I'm going to continue doing this, and then I'm going to wrap this in, I think, a 24 gauge silver plated titanium, or 26 gauge. It's just going to depend on what I have in stock. So, and I'm going to bring them all out to the end. So I'm going to do that off camera, and then I'll meet you all right back here. Okay, so we've come through. I ended up using a 26 gauge titanium colored copper core wire. I'm gonna tuck the end of this down just a little tighter. Okay, so now we actually get to start forming the shape of everything. I want to grab I've got a mechanical pencil here, and I'm going to use that as a mandrel to kind of bend this around. You can see I want these kind of offset from each other. So maybe we can take this and just with our thumbnail, or you could use your flat nose pliers, put a bit of a bend there, and that way they'll meet together flush on the side. And I'm going to bend this guy, the one that was the two core weave we did, and I'm going to bend them out at a right angle. And now I'm going to take them, still with our mandrel in there to maintain the shape of our bail, and I'm just going to fold it around the front and then wrap, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to go off camera, wrap around the back side just like that. Okay. So yeah, I think we'll maintain this side as the front. I think that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to bend these wires off to the back a bit, and we get to start kind of figuring out how we want this to lay. So I'm just going to actually open this up so that it'll sit kind of flat. See how that happens? And I definitely gave us a lot of wire to work with here on this one because I didn't really know, you know, what was going to go on. So I'm going to brace this right here. And of course the song of my people, the ice cream truck. And I'm bending this around. A little bit of a sharp bend there. And I think I want to nestle this one down. There's a little bit of a nook here. Oh, sorry. Zoom back out. Nestle this down and around. You know, just so that maybe this one will, I just want the little bits of quartz to poke out and peek at you and be like, hey, how's it going? I'm just hanging out here. Because, you know, that's what quartz crystals say. Sure, why not? And so I'm going to bring this up around, and this is going to be our first grounding wire. So I'm just going to bring that around like that. And so while this is not by any means stable, it's a start. And it gives us something that we can build and shape around until our piece is the way that we want it to be. So I am going to get in here with my bent nose pliers, grab this core wire and just bring it around a little bit more. And I'm just kind of, I want to maintain a center line, which will come through about there. And I'm going to let these two guys come off to the side here. And I think what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to establish a weave. And I'm going to do 2 off in one direction and 2 off in the other. And I think I'm going to do this with the 28 gauge, actually. Well, I'm going to do one with the 28 gauge and one with the 26 gauge. And we have a little bit of 26 gauge titanium left over. I'm just going to set this off to the side. because I hate to waste good wire, but I also don't want to be tangling up on it. And I'm just pulling out, there's one arm span. I'm doing 2 full arm spans. I don't want to be wasteful, but I also do not want to have to splice in more wire. So this wire, you can see, already has a little bit of a coil going on it. So I'm going to coil over here on this end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yeah, I really like how kind of fine this 28 gauge is. And I'm just using my bent nose pliers to really tuck that tail down. I don't want to snag anything. And so now we can bring this back up our wire to our pendant. And see how that kind of just slides in. I just want to slide it in right up in there. Okay, so now I'm going to come through and go, there's 2 rotations, and then I'm going to figure 8 it, zoom back out, and I'm going 1, 2, and then I'll figure 8 it. These are kind of long wires, so it's a little bit of a wrestling with it, especially trying to stay in frame. So I'm just doing a couple rotations. And what I mean by figure 8ing is, let me get this wrapped around and I'll be able to show you better. Like this wire is exiting that way. So I'm, instead of wrapping just around both of them, I'm weaving in between the 2. And I like to do 2 rotations on each, like 2 wraps on each side, because I feel like that stabilizes my wire and it gives it a nice little bit of spacing and helps me to keep everything nice and tight. See how that's kind of going? You can see my callus is getting all torn up. And so I'll go okay, I'm going to show y'all a trick. Our wire is way too long to be manageable, so I'm just taking it and I am re-spooling it down onto itself. And this, I mean, almost cuts it in half by length, but if we decide that we do still want more wire, we can just unroll it. So it does give us some weird little ends to have to watch out for, but now I don't have to struggle with, you know, sticking my arm every single which way. And so this big piece coming down, I'm just going to take it and spool it in on itself. And so now my ends, while they're that much more work hardened, they're much, much more manageable. And I'm just going to keep kind of figure eighting this. Because I'm trying to decide where I want this to come up and around also. I think I might continue the figure 8 down around the side and then have it come up into a rosette right here. So I'm going to continue this weave until I get to about right here. And then on this bottom part, instead of just doing 2 rotations, I'm going to do 3 rotations on this side, but still 2 on this one. And what that'll do is it'll expand this side faster than the other side, and it'll give us a really nice curve. You can accomplish a curve even without doing that, but you're going to have space in between your weaving. So I'm going to weave up to here and then meet y'all right back here. Okay, so I've gotten down to the point where I'd like to start turning. I've done a couple where it was just 3 and 2, but I've decided to do an alternate 3 and 4 on this side while still doing just 2 rotations on the inner side of the curve. I also think I want to contract down a little, maybe, I don't know. So we'll see how that goes. But for the meantime, I am bringing this out away from our point, just to give myself a little bit of room to work. And then I have them offset from each other, again, just trying to make it slightly easier on myself to get the wire in there. Still figure eighting it. So I did 4 on the last one, so there's 1 and 2 and 3. And since I'm starting to kind of curve it in a bit, I'm using this finger here to hold everything in to keep it from slipping away from the rest of my work. So there's 1 and 2. Figure eighting around. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's 1 and 2. And there's 1, 2, 3. Oops. See, it really wants to do that, but we got to keep it in line. There's 1 and 2. I'm really loving this 28 gauge. It's a lot easier on my hands. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1 and 2. And now we have, kind of cramming it down, making sure it stays in its spot. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Patience and persistence is key in this. Don't give up. Don't let your work get sloppy. Just keep doing what you're doing and you'll get there. 1, 2, 3, 4. But see how that is really building out that curve? There's 1, 2, 3. Let's see how that's sitting around. Well, looks like it's going to be a change of plans. I think I'm going to reduce it down to where it's just like that. But I really like how it's just hugging the side there. So it's good to know that we have a plan if only so that we can be like, oh, change of plans. Okay, so again, getting this out away from the rest of our work, that way I can fit my fingers in there to keep everything in line. And I'm just going to go ahead and reduce, continue reducing. 2, 3, 4. And here we have 1 and 2. Then 1, 2, 3. We have 1, 2. Then 1, 2, 3. I've decided all of a sudden to just go with 3 for the next couple because I don't feel like I need as sharp of a turn. There's 1 and 2. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. There's 1, 2. And now I think from here, yeah, I don't need any more of a curve, so I'm just going to do 2 on each side and just kind of keep it nice and tight, coming all the way down. So really bending this up and out of the way. Okay. So now we have 1, 2, 1, 2. Squeeze. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And I'm going to just keep doing this. See how it brings it really nice and close together? I'm going to zoom in just a hair. And we're just going to keep building it off until we come up around to the side. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to meet you all right back here. Okay, so I haven't quite finished off weaving here yet, but this is just wiggling around way too much for me. So I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to come in here on this part of the wire and with my round nose pliers, and I'm just taking it and I'm actually just cinching that down because I'm tired of that wiggle going on there. So I mean, it's not perfect, there's still some wobbling going on, but just doing that quick little cinch helped quite a bit. But kind of what happened here too is this came unstabilized somehow. I don't want to risk chipping any of the quartz crystals off. But I'm going to keep building this up and around. And then I think I'm going to have it come in between these two and finishing in a spiral there. So I'm going to keep going, but I just wanted to show you guys that step for don't be afraid to kind of add a little squiggle wobble into your work just to stabilize everything down a bit more. So that little bit of a tail that was there, I just coiled in, like curled in with my round nose pliers. I did a loose open weave to show off a little bit more of that titanium colored wire, bringing it up and around, and then I started the figure 8 again, right in there. And so now I'm going to start splitting this, but I'm going to do the expansion on this side now. So there's going to be an alternating 3 and 4 on this side with just 2 on this side. Maintaining that figure 8 all the while. So there's 1, 2. There's 1, 2, 3. And you can do them super loose. Just keep in mind you're going to need to cinch it back down, because otherwise your wraps will be kind of bumpy looking. 1, 2. And there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now 1 and 2. There's 1, 2, 3. Getting snagged on my pliers. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. There's 1 and 2. So see how that's kind of happening? So now 1, oops, didn't mean to hit the camera. 2, 3, 4. There's 1 and 2. So now that I've gotten a little bit built up, I am going to start kind of just putting in that little bit of a curve. Just like that. That way it gives us something to follow along with. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 1 and 2. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 and 2. So you can see how that's starting to lay. And I think I'm going to have this follow this curve of the beads. I want it to be like just kind of waves just happening. So it looks like I can reduce this then to a just 3 repetition on this side with 2 on here until I get down into this sharper curve. Then I'll probably expand it to a 4 repetition before bringing it back down to a 3 and then a 2, 2 to finish that off. So I'm going to go ahead and weave this, and then I'll meet you right back here to show you how it looks. Okay, so here we have, I've come around and done this like swoop part that's going to be kind of nestled in right here, but we only have just this little bit of wire left. So instead of struggling to continue the figure 8 weave, I'm actually just going to take it and do a few more rotations around just one of the wires. 3, 4, 5. Smush them down. And this is where I really feel like bent nose pliers just are worth their weight in gold. Because you can do a couple of rotations of the coil, like super loose even like that, and then push it in and see how it's all like bumpy and weird right there. And then you can take your bent nose pliers and just cinch it down, boop, just like that. And so now they're nice and smooth. Now I prefer to not have it be loose, just because, but if you go with the flow of what's happening, sometimes it happens. So I'm going to finish up just wrapping this wire around the core and push it in. And I'm going to use my bent nose pliers to kind of cinch and shape this around. So I don't want any loose little bumpy parts, you know, any loose ends of the wire. So now this is how it's sitting. And I'm going to train it around underneath everything else. And I'm kind of just squishing it down to sit along with the rest of the wire. And I think I'm going to have one come off to one side, but this one I'm still going to train just down and around. And I think I'm going to trim it. Give myself about an inch. Snip, save that scrap wire, that'll be perfect for something. And I'm going to use my fine tipped round nose pliers. And I'm just going to start making a little spiral. And I'm going to grab it again with my bent nose pliers. I use these a lot if you hadn't noticed. And I'm just going to nestle it in right there. And that holds everything pretty snug. And so that's how that's sitting. I'm going to reinsert our pencil or mandrel and just kind of train it up to maintain that center line, because things can get kind of distorted as you're weaving. And now the only thing I don't like about this is there's a potential for that to get snagged and come up. So what I'm actually going to do is take this scrap 26 gauge wire. Well, I hesitate to call it scrap, just this extra piece that we had laying about. And I'm going to thread it through back this way. And you'll notice it is hooking around the edge of our design here. I'm going to see if I can't pull quite tight. Really get it embedded in with the rest of the wire. Now, if you wanted this to be completely invisible, I'd recommend using the same wire color. But you can see it just sits like that. And now we can stabilize this to whatever we like. Like, I think I'm going to have it wrap around to this piece right here. And I'm actually going to take both wires and I'm going to start coiling everything else out of the way. There's no sense in making it harder on yourself than it has to be. But yeah, so I'm being careful to not cross my wires, because you want everything to stay nice and flat. But I'm just going to take them and just wrap around our 18 gauge core wire that was just sticking out here in the back. Making sure nothing's getting crossed. And I'm just going to continue this around. Again, making sure nothing gets crossed and weird. Now I'm going to zoom out so y'all can see a trick that I like to do. Now careful, because this can get messy pretty quickly. But if you just take it and kind of rotate the piece as opposed to the wire, I don't know, it uses a different part of your fingers, I guess. But I do feel like it can be more prone to mistake. But we're getting so close, guys. And I'm just checking, making sure, yeah, it looked like we overlapped a little bit right there. There's nothing wrong with backtracking to make sure that you got it correct. Because I feel like with wire wrapping, you can use more affordable wire and you can use more affordable beads and stuff, but it's the time investment in your piece that really is going to pay off and make a huge difference in how it looks. I mean, because you could take something with, you know, you could have diamonds wire wrapped in, you know, 24 karat gold or, you know, whatever, I don't know, but if you only spent, you know, 10-15 minutes on it and didn't pay attention to the details and just let it be sloppy and, you know, like let your wire mar up from your pliers and all sorts of stuff, it's not going to look as nice as if you used even possibly a plastic or a resin gem with, you know, enameled wire. So, you know, but something that you paid a lot of attention to all of your details and tried to do, you know, really high quality craftsmanship on. Okay, so that's kind of stabilizing it down. And we can now take this, and to keep that nice and tight, I'm bending it in the other direction. And I don't think I'm going to bring it up there, but we could cross these guys. And so I'm actually going to snip right there. And I'm going to use my thick-nosed round nose pliers. To do a spiral. Flatten it out with our bent nose pliers. Just a bit. But now you can see that these are overlapped. So now I'm going to have this guy come in here. And we're going to do some squiggles. And again, you might want to come in and just give everything a nice flattening. And am I going to need all of this wire? I don't think so. I think I'm going to snip it about here. You know, I'm just going to snip it there, and if we decide that we need more space, we'll trim it down later. Oops. My pliers slipped. That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Those are the little details that, to me, it's not, like, I don't want to leave that in my work. So I'm just going to snip it. Now we can actually remove some of this wire. And that opens up a little bit more of a tip for us to fit our pliers on, in theory. And so there we go. Ah! And then I did it again. Dad nubbit. So you can also grab it much farther up on your coil and then come back in and redistribute it with your fingernails if you'd like to. Oh, sorry. I was looking around the side of the camera and didn't realize I was going out of frame. Yes, that's a little bit bigger than what I wanted, so I'm going to come in here and just snip, or try to. There we go. So just snipping that little bit off of there. And now we can come in and tighten down this center. And tighten down the whole thing, the whole spiral. And that's much more in line with what I was going for. That's still a little large. So we're going to do that again. Pinging it across the room. There we go. A good clean cut. Just curling this around nicely. There we are. Now if we can, oh, it doesn't seem like there's room for it. I was going to try to stuff that into our little area there underneath all the weaving that we had done. So instead, I'm going to take some of the 28 gauge. Let's see. Probably a good solid. Do I want to use the 28 or do I want to use 20? I'm going to use 26 gauge. Sorry. Like, this is seriously how much I plan my pieces, you guys. Like, totally on the fly. And I really like it. It keeps, even after 10 years of, you know, doing jewelry or at least some sort of crafting all day, almost every day, it keeps it fresh and fun and exciting. And it's like, and very rewarding, because it's like, I've had some people comment on, you know, they liked how surprised I was at how a piece came out, and it's like, yeah, I had no better idea about how this was going to come out than you did. So, you know, so that's pretty cool. Like, I like it. I like getting to make stuff like that. Okay, so double arm span of 26 gauge. And now I'm going to feed up through from behind on everything and poke it through this spiral right there. And I'm just snagging the edge of it. And then about 4 or 5 inches before folding it over and feeding it back down and through behind everything. We're trying to. Yeah, come on. Put a little bit of a curve into it. Yeah, it doesn't want to follow the other wire. Of course, I say that and it works. Excellent. Use our bent nose pliers. We'll use our fingernail to snag it up. Then use our bent nose pliers to pull it through. And so now from here, we can pull this down. And you want it to get to where it's lining up with the grain. Because with it like this, you can pull and pull all day, and it's just not going to settle into the grooves. But if you can get it to line up, and you can even encourage it by putting a bit of a split with your fingernail into the wire. And I'm going to grab it with my pliers. And kind of try to gently encourage its placement. Because what's happening is the top isn't lining up with the bottom. It's driving me crazy. There it goes. And you just saw it slide in. Now ideally I would have used the same color, but I wanted you to be able to see how well that matches. Like just tucking in. Okay. And so now we can pull this off to the side in the same direction. And I am going to do the same little or am I? I don't know. Because we have all this wire over here. What are we going to do with it? I think I'm going to bring it in and continue that weave and do a nice little spread like that. Only I think this one I'm going to have be much more open the way that this one is. So I'm going to go ahead and get started doing that, and then I'll meet you all right back here to talk about it. Okay, so it didn't come out as wide and airy as I thought it would, but I kind of just kept weaving and was having fun. But so now I'm going to take this and I'm going to have it sweep over this area. So I'm actually going to bring this around the back. And it actually just meets up really nicely with the back of the bale. And I still had like almost a whole arm span of wire, but since it's a pretty decent amount, I think I might just trim it and see what happens. 2, 3, 4, 5. It's always a good idea to bind off the end of your wire, because you don't want, you know, stuff to just start coming unraveled. It's almost the wire wrapping equivalent of like back stitching or something. Like, you know, you want everything to stay nice and like together. Okay, so I'm just going to take this top one here and wrap it around. There's once, and now I'm going to wrap it around just the back side of the bale. And again, just wrap that around. And so now I'm going to trim. Save that little extra piece. It'll be perfect for making something out of. I'm going to grab this wire as close to the tip of the wire and as close to the tip of the pliers as I can. And then just start, oops, bumping the camera. But just start spiraling it in. And I'm just going to hide it here behind the bale. And then I'm going to bring this piece around and around the back. And I don't know, I don't think I want it right there. Never mind on that one. So I actually think I'm going to use it to fill in this spot right here. It's looking kind of bland. And I kind of want to hide the the inner workings, you know, of the pendant. I'm going to take this and kind of just bend it around. Now I'm going to take this and thread it up through right here. These are bent nose pliers to grab hold and, oops, pull through. And I'm going to snip. And just spiral this on inward. Excuse me. Sorry, my dog's huffle-snuffling and licking his feet and making all sorts of weird noises over there just because he can. He's like, oh, Mom's recording, quick, make awkward noises. So I'm going to take this and thread it through itself, just like that. Bent nose plier time. There we go. Eep. And it's a little bit of a crazy mess, but that happens. So now I'm going to snip that right there. And I'm going to spiral this inward. Just like that. Everything's kind of sitting nice and happy together. So I'm going to take this and coil a bit more. So go for a bit and then start cinching down. Go for a bit and then cinch it down. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this right here. So I'm going to bring it down and then I'm going to coil a little bit more and I'm just going to loop a spiral right there. So just keep coiling, just keep coiling, coiling. So just kind of hold it down and measure it, because I'm going to have it hook through here and then spiral off. So, I don't know, I hate to cut the camera because I don't want to have to edit another point, but I also don't want this to take forever. Okay, that's it. I'm cutting the camera. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, so I got this all coiled to the length that I think I want, and I'm going to go ahead and snip off this wire. With this being the silver filled, I'm definitely going to make sure to save all of those little scrap pieces, because, you know, hashtag hoarder life. But really though, I am going to save them. I'll probably actually take it and wrap it back around its own spool, and that way I'll know, hey, I need to use that up before I use up anything else. So, I'm just going to thread this through right there. Y'all, I'm kind of excited at how this is coming out. And I'm just going to snip, giving myself a few millimeters to hold on to my wire. And there we are. So let's zoom this in a hair. So I did not have a plan coming into this, but I have to say I'm pretty pleased with how it all came out. So now it is time to contact the client and see what they have to say. So I hope he likes it. Hey y'all, so this is how it came out. I'm pretty excited about it. I sent some pictures to the client to see what he thought because, you know, I can like it all day long, but unless the client loves it, my work is not done. But as far as the tutorial goes, that is done. So I'll be sure to keep y'all posted, like on Instagram and stuff, about whether or not they like it. But if y'all have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below in the comment area. I love hearing from you guys. If you would like to share pictures of what you've made, there's links down in the video description of like my social media and stuff, like Instagram and Facebook and DeviantArt and stuff. And you can tag me or share it to my wall. Now also, if y'all are enjoying my free tutorials and would like to participate in my monthly craft crates and fairy house giveaways and all of the different things that we do at here back to blah, 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 and participate in all the things we do here at Back to Earth Creations, please check me out on Patreon. Again, there's links down in the video description below, as well as maybe something popping up on the screen here. But yeah, pledges start at just $1 a month and kind of work their way up from there. So again, thank you guys and happy crafting. Mwah. Bye.